Teslagrad is Rain Games' debut title, and a surprisingly enjoyable treat that I certainly did not expect. I can now say for sure that I'm going to be keeping my eyes on this studio to see what else they might have in store for us, and I encourage you to as well. Rain Games has set the bar very high for themselves with this game, but let's take a deeper look at the individual aspects of the game and find out just exactly how they've managed to do that. What I'm going to focus on in this section is not the content of the story, but rather how the story is presented to the player. The game begins with a seamless transition from menu to intro, with the player character's father leaving him with his mother, before heading off with a worried expression and a mysterious staff strapped to his back. More than a year passes, and times have changed as an army of red-clothed men storm your home and your town, leaving you with no other option than to flee under your mother's orders. Amidst a heavy downpour, you'll be leaping across rooftops and climbing vines to avoid these evil invaders, desperate to reach somewhere safe. You eventually approach a drawbridge and cross it. As it closes behind you, you are greeted by an ominous statue wielding a glowing rod, and from there your true quest begins. I won't go into any more detail here to avoid any spoilers, but soon after you unlock your first power and begin on your way to finding out just where you are, what's going on, and what happened to your father. As for the presentation of the story, Teslagrad features no voice acting, no speech bubbles, no dialogue of any kind. All of the story is told and implied visually. That's not to say there isn't story sequences, but they're very far from traditional cutscenes, if you can call them that. Hidden in the tower are these theater rooms in which an automated puppet show will play on a loop should you enter. Combining this with the scrolls that you collect, which each reveal a unique piece of the story, you're able to find out just what happened between the blue Teslamancers and the invading red forces. This method of storytelling is beautiful and immersive, proving that you don't need language to present ideas, concepts, and events to a player. Now, let's talk about gameplay. Teslagrad is all about positive and negative charges, attraction and repulsion, or in other words, red and blue. It's done in the typical platformer style, something that we're all used to by now, but it's the physics-based electromagnetic puzzles and action that truly bring the game above and beyond the typical indie platformer title. The main goal of the game is to collect the 36 scrolls hidden around the castle, which will require clever and quick use of your gadgets. The type of level or world in which it takes place is not an unfamiliar style. If you've ever played Metroid or Symphony of the Night, then you know what to expect, and that there are no levels. You're in this tower with free reign over where to explore, with backtracking being something that has to be done, but not overly so as we've seen in some other titles. With a minimum scroll run of 15 to unlock the final boss, it strikes a good balance for completionists and the average player alike. Naturally, all of the powers you unlock on this adventure are based around polarity and electricity. You'll start off by being able to do nothing more than changing the polarity of an object, but soon enough you'll be able to blink through cages and over gaps, and even change the polarity of yourself. It's truly impressive to see just how creatively the team at Rain Games have managed to utilize these basic ideas to create enchanting and challenging puzzles and areas. At first you're simply creating passageways or bridges, but later on you'll be surfing on an impromptu hoverboard, rolling around in a massive steel cage ball, or using an enemy's magnetic attacks against itself. Speaking of enemies, even though there are enemies that will kill you, there isn't any actual combat to be had. You must simply evade them. However, the game has boss fights, 5 of them to be exact, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Rather than fill each room with a bunch of popcorn enemies, all battles take place during these boss fights. It was a great decision by the designers to do this, as the fights are some of the best around, ranging from easy to something that wouldn't seem out of place in an NES Mega Man title, both in style and in challenge. These old-school boss fights feel right at home in Teslagrad, but that's not to say there's no action outside of these, with intense split-second timing required on some challenging jumps, or to dodge a beam of electricity that's about to disintegrate you. There's a lot of moments that will demand your full concentration and reflexes to conquer. Finally beating an area or boss in Teslagrad after countless deaths is an incredibly satisfying experience, something that few games these days manage to get right. Speaking of countless deaths, it's important to note at this point that anything will kill you in one hit. But there's little penalty in actually dying, and you certainly will die many, many times. The game will put you back at the entrance to the screen and everything will be reset, barring any scrolls you may have collected. And I was not sure how to feel about this at first, but I think in the end that it was the right decision for this style of game. Featuring a lack of save rooms or RPG elements, it's an all-platforming game, with nothing else to bog it down or get in the way of the level design. The sound in Teslagrad all fits very well, from the tinny clattering of a spiderbot's feet across a cobblestone path to the electric hums and whizzes of the electromagnetic devices around you. Nothing sounds wrong or out of place. Being a platformer, there's not much else to say about the sound effects. I never really noticed it sounding bad, and that's all I need for this type of game. But what is of paramount importance is that the soundtrack be just right for each area, and Teslagrad hits the nail on the head with pounding rhythmic jungle beats to thoughtful ambient tones to the whimsical and upbeat exploration music. It's all very enjoyable and does an excellent job of setting the mood. Finally, let's focus on the graphics. The most immediately noticeable and standout aspect of Teslagrad is easily its art style. Featuring a unique steampunk design with beautifully rendered painted environments and hand-drawn characters painstakingly animated frame by frame with both care and detail. It truly brings the world of Teslagrad to life, featuring lush greenery, damp cavern tunnel systems, pitch blackness with nothing but a firefly to light your way. Teslagrad hits every note and does not miss a beat when it comes to its aesthetic design. Just look at it for yourself. It's a treat for your eyes. While the time I spent with Teslagrad was not entirely perfect, there was points that I was frustrated and experienced some shoddy hit detection, in particular with the spider bots. These were easily overlooked from the overall extremely positive experience I took from the game. I loved uncovering what had happened in this world with the clues left in the environment. It was filled with both whimsy and tragedy, and by the end, I had certainly felt both joy and sorrow. What Rain Games has done, without any words, is amazing. Teslagrad features masterful execution of alternative storytelling, and the world they crafted around their initial concepts is a magical one. The game did not overstay its welcome, and I found its 4 to 5 hour length for a 17-scroll playthrough to be perfect. I'm glad I spent my time in this world. I would wholly recommend this game to anybody looking for a unique and fun puzzle platforming experience. Teslagrad gets a 4.25 out of 5.